Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to redo a recipe that I did on the channel probably 5 or 6 years ago. And there's a couple of reasons I want to redo it. The first reason is, first time around, not many people saw it. And it's pretty much outdated at this point because it was that style of video with just hands and music and something that was all the rage on YouTube when it came out. Didn't stand the test of time. That style did not stand the test of time. So I want to redo it. There's a second reason I want to redo it, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And so what we're going to do today is a recipe that is essentially coq au bière, chicken in beer. Everybody is fully 100% familiar with coq au vin. But as this pan heats up, I'm going to melt some butter in there. So we'll get the butter in. And I'm going to sprinkle some skin-on, bone-in thighs here with some salt and pepper. And make sure you, of course, do both sides. So, coq au vin, Julia Child probably single-handedly brought coq au vin to the forefront in her cookbooks and cooking show. Great recipe. Absolutely love it. But, historically, coq au vin really doesn't start until the 1950s. It doesn't start showing up in cookbooks until post-World War II. I've got an extensive library of cookbooks, and a lot of my, well, none of my French cookbooks from, say, the early 1700s till about 1910, none of them have a recipe for coq au vin or chicken cooked in red wine. Okay, this pan's looking pretty good. The butter is just starting to brown a little bit. That's going to bring some great flavor. So in go the chicken thighs, skin side down. And once they're in, I will salt and pepper this side of the chicken. So in those pre-World War I French cookbooks that I have, all meats, chicken, beef, veal, all meats are pretty much cooked only in white wine. Verjus, which are grapes that aren't yet ripe, they're pressed, and that juice, green juice, is very sour and is a great liquid for cooking in this sort of style of a braise or beer. Red wine is pretty much for drinking, and it's only post-World War II where red wine really starts to make an impact on braised dishes. That's not to say red wine wasn't used. There are a very few select recipes that I've seen in these cookbooks where red wine is used, but I've never seen it with chicken. Again, doesn't mean that it never happened, but I've never seen it in my collection of close to 100 cookbooks from that time period. Probably there. I just haven't been able to find it. Okay, I think I'll flip these over. We don't need to cook them the whole way because it's going to roast in the oven. I just wanted to get the browning started. Okay, a little bit of cooking on the other side is all it really needs. Don't have to cook them all the way through because we will be putting this in the oven. So I'm going to take them out of the pan. This is the point where you, like every recipe, assess how much oil is in the bottom of the pan and how much you want to remove. So I've got a mixture of butter and chicken fat. It smells amazing. I've got a bit of fond on the bottom of the pan. I'm not going to take any out because I think the fat is flavor and I think I've got just the right amount. So next in, a few sliced shallots. And we'll just get those going. I don't want to brown them. I just wanted to give them a little bit of a head start to soften up. And they're starting to soften up nicely. Next in are some chopped up mushrooms. Just white mushrooms that I had. And I just quartered them. I didn't really slice them too thinly. I wanted to keep them kind of chunky so that I don't lose them in the sauce later. Okay, so I'm just going to get these going until the mushrooms start to lose most of their water. The mushrooms are starting to release the water, so now I'm going to put in garlic. This is 1 clove of garlic that we grew in our garden this summer, and we grow 5 or 6 different kinds of garlic, and this variety, the garlic is, bigger than my thumb for each clove, so there's quite a bit of garlic in there. Okay, to some people, maybe that's not that much garlic. This variety is particularly fragrant, and I think for me that's enough. Garlic, salt, pepper are all things that are to taste, to your taste. No matter what a recipe says, always use those to your own taste. So if you want more, put more in. Simple as that. Leave it out. Simple as that. Okay, so the second reason I wanted to do this video today is that this recipe uses beer. You may or may not know, we have a brewing channel, a home brewing channel. Julie and I have a little brewery down in our basement where we make beer. And for a long time, we made beer and uploaded videos. And then about 5 years ago, stopped. Other parts of our lives got really busy, other things going on. Today is the first day where there is a new beer upload on the brewery channel. And this is the beer that we made. This is an English Ordinary Bitter. Perhaps not the right beer to use in this. It's a very tasty beer, maybe not authentic to this dish. A French farmhouse ale would be great. But like everything I do here, find the one that you like, the one that you have in your fridge, and use that. Okay. Did I say what this was? This is an English Ordinary Bitter. If you want to see us brew this beer, link below to the Glenn & Friends brew house, and you can watch us make that beer and taste it. Gotta get the tap. We used to have a keg fridge out here in the studio. It's now down in the basement in the brewery. So what I want to do now is bring this up to a boil and reduce by probably 2/3 that liquid. And now I'm going to put in some rosemary and thyme. We'll stir that in. Next in is a good spoonful of mustard. And I've got a grainy mustard here. Good spoonful, maybe a tablespoon and a half of grainy mustard. Stir that in. I can turn this down. I don't need it boiling quite so hard now. Going to add in some chicken stock and some 35% whipping cream. Okay, now it's time to put the chicken back in. Skin side up because you're going to roast it in the oven. Now, here's the deal. In case you don't know how this works, I am alone in the studio when I cook these things. I will cook 2 or 3 dishes over the course of a day in order to put them up on the YouTube channel. Sometimes only 1 or 2, depending on what they are. But, you know, sometimes I try to get to 3. I'm alone. I'm cooking. I'm talking. I'm moving the camera. I'm taking care of the lighting. I'm taking care of everything all on my own. And trying to time it for when Julie gets home from work so that the main dish is ready for when Julie gets home from work. Cakes and pies and cookies and stuff like that are really easy because I can do those in the morning and it really doesn't matter. They can sit until Julie gets home. But for things like this, I have to time them so that it kind of makes sense that they're not hanging around too long. I'm way ahead of schedule today. So normally I would take this, I'd put it in the oven, preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, put it in there for about 30 minutes. That'll thicken up the sauce and crisp the top of the chicken as well as cook the chicken through. I've got about an hour and 20 minutes before Julie gets home. So I'm going to turn the temperature down to 225. I'm going to cook it slowly. And then just as she comes through the door, I'm going to bump it up to the top rack, put on the broiler, and crisp the skin. That's the plan anyway. We'll see how that works out.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends. We got chicken and beer. Is that one of the ones you've done recently?
Yes. So it is an English Ordinary Bitter. It's not fully carbonated yet.
That's okay. Then it's just like an English bitter.
It is just like yep.
You just poured it out the
Sauce is a little loose because of my timing cooking it
life.
Yeah, it could be a little bit thicker.
It'll be okay. You could always add some. Yeah. Anyway, let's prioritize.
Yeah,
that'll be fine.
That's an English Ordinary Bitter. Okay, so it's called a bitter. It's not bitter. It's not very hoppy. 300 years ago, it was super hoppy. From perceptibly, hops were fairly new in brewing. This was like the New England IPA of the 1600s.
It's just funny because, of course, now it can be so hoppy.
Yeah, it's a very mild.
Really bitter.
It is a very mild beer.
Okay. No, I'll be fine.
Okay,
I'll save that.
so
You'll have to come to the beer video to hear that story that I just didn't tell.
chicken, very crispy skin. Got a mushroom.
Can't do this with Grace.
That sauce is great. If I was super concerned about wanting to get it thicker at this point, Vermenier would be the way to go. That sauce.
Cream?
Yeah, so there's cream in there. Cream and beer. And butter. Cream, beer, and butter.
Cream, beer, and butter chicken.
Yeah.
Can you get any better?
No, that is really good.
It's pretty good.
That's really good. And the chicken is nice and tender because it's braised in the
I
sauce,
guess
right?
the spoon wasn't a good choice.
No.
And no, I haven't had too much beer. I hear you.
Super easy meal. Serve it with rice, serve it with potatoes, serve it with whatever you want. And like I said at the beginning, if you don't want to cook with beer, the flavor's amazing. But if you don't want to cook with beer, white wine would be great. Verjus would be fantastic. And if you don't want to cook with alcohol, just use all chicken stock. Where I put in just a little bit of chicken stock, just replace it all with chicken stock.
There you go.
Fancy. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.
With the amount of liquid you have in there, could you cook a rice? Could you have done a little rice or a little?
I could have put maybe like a half cup of uncooked rice in with that. Yeah.
Because that would have.
It would have soaked up
Now that you know how much liquid is in it.
It would have soaked up the flavor, and you'd have a really flavorful rice to go with it. I mean, that would
Because we already have a model like that, right?
that would work perfectly.
It's very cream and mushroomy.